All right, ladies, another amazing, brilliant, wonderful, dangerous woman is joining us this week. She is a past client, a friend, and a licensed clinical social worker. And we're going to be talking about, this is a brilliant title, by the way. I can't take credit for it. She came up with it, but we're going to talk about therapy and beyond therapy and the work that Laurie does working with women mainly, and helping them to just live amazing lives. And we're all about that. So, Laurie, thank you so much for joining me. Would you briefly just introduce yourself? Because I'm going to give everybody the whole bio with all your credentials, but I would love for you to share with everybody just who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'll do my best. So my name is Laurie Dierstein, and I am a licensed clinical social worker in Virginia. I am also the owner of 3 clinics based in Virginia Beach. So Reboot Mind Body Health is the first, established in 2016 or something. Reboot Functional Healthcare, and a new clinic opening called Reboot Intensive Programs. And they're all a little bit different, and they're kind of birthed from each other and in the needs of our patients. And so that's really neat that they kind of layer on top to give us more of a comprehensive approach to healing. So the beyond therapy kind of approach. So Reboot Mind Body Health is the first, and it's my baby, and it's a mental health practice, a holistic mental health practice, and that's where I practice and do therapy with patients, my form of therapy. And yes, I work primarily with women, who are dealing with symptoms of chronic stress, who are burnt out, high achievers, and are experiencing things like sleeplessness and irritability and mood changes and infertility in particular. I am also an infertility counselor.
So you are very humble. I know everybody heard that. She has 3 businesses that she started from the ground up, and is not only a 7-figure business owner, but you're also a mom, and you're also a wife, and you also have experienced a lot of the things that you treat women for, so you can be very empathetic because you know how it feels, right?
I do, yes.
I mean, you did kind of glide past the whole I own and started and founded 3 businesses.
I tend to do that, yes.
You tend to do that a little bit, but I think you described probably, 98% of the women in the world that feel burnout and stressed and have trouble sleeping and just have this chronic level of stress. What made you get into this? Like, what was the catalyst for you to be like, you know what, I need to help these women because we're out here struggling?
Sure. I mean, I think largely it was from personal experience. So thank you for reminding me of that. I saw a lot when I was early in my career, and I have definitely evolved as a therapist, and these things have come about due to that evolution. But early on in my career, I worked primarily with the homeless population and very severe mental health, and I worked with children. And I saw people at their worst, and I saw the families of these folks who were experiencing the worst things we can imagine when it comes to just general functioning and mental health. And they were all burnt out, primarily moms, especially witnessing moms making the decision to admit their children, 6-year-olds, into facilities for an indefinite period of time. So I remember a young kiddo when I was working as the director of admissions for a psychiatric hospital. a young kiddo being admitted from, who knows where, Kentucky, something like this, and running amok around the halls and hitting and yelling. And he was so dysregulated. And then also having to witness, the mom's struggle with making that decision and putting her child into this hospital for years, probably. And knowing that there was a different way, I learned a different way when I was in my training at Boston University. I was in this pilot program that was really cool to have. It wasn't a dual degree. It was just kind of shy of a dual degree, but I worked at the medical school in a new program in behavioral medicine. So looking at lifestyle modification, looking at proactive ways to kind of manage yourself and manage clients. So it's more holistic, more preventive versus getting to that point where you're a mom that's just broken down and either seeking services for yourself because there's no other way, or you're admitting your child to the hospital because you have no other option. You don't know what else to do. You've kind of run the gamut. So very preventive. And I just aligned with that.
Okay.
And then my own...
Hold on, Laurie, because you broke up there. And I don't know, was it still recording on your side?
I think so. I didn't see anything.
Okay. All right. As long as it's still going on your side,
Okay.
I think it should be okay. The video stopped. So.
I see a red light. It's my internet connection today. Yeah.
It's okay. I think as long as your side is recording, they'll.
Okay.
I hope, Kelly. I'm so sorry. I'm speaking for him, assuming, but I think it'll work fine. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Then I experienced my own difficulties with chronic stress and kind of the fallout from there. And I've had a couple of experiences throughout my life and my career that have really given me pause in what I'm doing, and they've led me to kind of look within and figure out ways to heal myself. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like, you one and done. I mean, it's a constant struggle. So, in grad school in Boston, I experienced weird vision things because I was pushing myself with working and supporting myself while also going through graduate school. It was a very difficult period of time. Didn't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
From Virginia.
You started experiencing like actual side effects as if you were sick from chronic stress.
I was pushing myself the way that, like I said, high achievers tend to do, not care for myself properly or the way that I needed. And so I was experiencing these weird things, weight loss, sleeplessness, and I am particularly fond of sleeping. So I know that is, that's a problem, and started experiencing these things while I was going to school on the T, where I would lose vision.
Wow.
And I can only assume that they were my form of anxiety attack, something like that. So I still had all my other senses, and I knew where I was, and I was able to find my way around. But this happened 2 or 3 times that I can recall, while on the T, which is the subway system in Boston. It's very hot, it's very packed, and for someone who was already kind of overstimulated, it was like too much, right? So these episodes, and had to figure out how to reverse that. So that was one. And then in my career, I was advancing up and started getting into the corporate field, and that doesn't really align with my belief systems. And I was pushing myself again, very stressed out, had a pretty heavy responsibility with my position And it started to take a toll, and I experienced a handful of years of infertility. And that was difficult. And I wasn't able to fully heal. I was able to successfully go through IVF with as much sanity as one can. And I was able to have 2 lovely daughters through IVF. And so infertility is one of my particular passions because of my experience. But definitely know that unexplained infertility is often a symptom of chronic stress and burnout for women. So
I don't think a lot of people know that, but what you just described as your experience with chronic stress is that you were highly functioning, highly stressed out, and experiencing, like, you were just still going, and still, like most high achieving women do, you were still doing the things that needed to be done in this state of prolonged chronic stress. And then seeing the manifestations of that come out in your health and start to affect you. At what point did you say, okay, something needs to change, something needs to be done? And how do you help your clients get to that point where they realize, listen, another pill is not going to be the solution here. There's something more than therapy. Because that's one of the things you talk about, is like, sometimes therapy is not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think therapy is a huge piece of the puzzle. But I don't think it's enough. I think we can go deeper. And I think that at this point in time, as professionals, I think we're kind of charged with pushing our clients to go deeper, because there's so much that is coming to light about how our bodies are affected if we're not taking care of the basics. And so what I do in my approach with my clients is kind of convince them of what are the basics, right? What do we know common sense wise? What do we know about how to take care of ourselves? So most of the women in particular that I work with, they are moms or they want to be moms, right? So we have some kind of an idea of what you need to do to take care of children as a mom, right?
Right.
Those are the basics. So in part, I kind of flip the script a little bit with women in, okay, if you had a 5-month-old, right, or 10-month-old that you were in charge of at this point in time, what are the basics that baby would need? And you know this. Intuition tells you, and, you know, these are the things that are important to keep this baby alive. Those are the basics.
Yeah.
Why, as adults, do we not apply those basics to ourselves? We get away from them and we choose to do something different. We still need the same thing, right? We're still human. So we identify things like proper nutrition, right? The body's not going to give you its best if you're not fueling it with what it needs, right? We talk about movement and exercise. We talk about sleep. We talk about social connections. We talk about play. We talk about relaxation. These are all things that are basic to human needs. And then kind of challenge the things that have come up over adulthood that kind of have convinced women that, oh, they don't need to pay attention to that, right? Oh, not me, right?
Right.
Or, oh, I'm too busy for that. We're not as crucial. It's how we survive and it's how we thrive, right? And something is going on. So I do think that women are waking up to the fact that, hey, I got to do something different, right? And especially after all this that we've all been through, and we're all stressed out. And just yesterday, a client, it happened to be a male, but a client mentioned to me, something is happening. People are off, you know, people are very sick. We're kind of going with no feedback loop to tell us, hey, you know, everything's okay. We're not in survival mode. You are safe. You know, you're able to take care of yourself and relax. We're not doing that. We're just pushing ourselves to the next thing, right? And that's causing us to become ill.
Right.
And die early. So we're not having a great quality of life, and then our length of life is getting shorter. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating too, right? Because you work with a lot of high achievers, women and men, that you have to remind people, women, of the basics. Like we may have one or two of them down. Like it's like, okay, logically, I know I have to eat and I should eat like well and maybe not eat fast food every day. But then it's almost like we don't put the pieces together. What do you find is like when you have clients come in, what is their biggest struggle? Is it all the pieces, or is it one component where it's like most everybody's struggling in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all the pieces, honestly. I think part of that is that there's so much information available to us, but it's kind of deciding what information is right for you, right? So the information that's right for me isn't going to be the information that's right for you. So I think it's deciding, okay, what is good information versus bad information? And then what is the information that is most applicable to your needs at this period of time? So is it that we need to, that's great, you're eating clean. What does that mean to you, right? What does your body need? And we might have to look at what's going on in the body. So we might have to do some labs to figure out, okay, this puzzle is not fitting together, right? There's so many pieces missing, but we need to figure out where's the dysfunction, where are the deficiencies, and then we can kind of support those deficiencies and dysfunction so that the puzzle can fit a little bit better together. But the way that my body functions and my labs are going to look different from someone else's. So it's personalizing that information.
Yeah. What do you feel like it, because there is so much information, and I mean, you could just go on social media alone and come across 10 different professionals, 20 different influencers, and get like 1,000 different combinations of this is how you are healthy. What do you feel like is one of the biggest misconceptions or one of the most misleading things that are information that's out there now when it comes to like being healthy, well-rounded in a holistic way? Like what is some of the stuff that you're hearing that you're like cringing when you see people doing it or spouting it like it's the truth? What are you seeing?
Yeah. I think it's twofold for me, and this is also what I'm seeing, but also what I'm hearing from clients is people really know nothing about nutrition, and in particular what their body needs and what their body is going to do the best with in terms of diet. And there are so many diets out there and available to us, and most of them are nonsense. And we really have to have information like labs or, to go off of to tell us, okay, these are the things that are going to be best for you based on the information that your body is telling us, and these things are the things to steer clear of. There's a lot of biohacking going on as it pertains to nutrition. A lot of things that we hear about is like fasting, for instance.
Right.
And fasting is wonderful for some people, and it can be really helpful. And if you look at evolution, fasting has always been in place. I think there were multiple reasons for that. Now we get to opt in to fasting if we want, and I don't think that was the case a long time ago. But some people don't respond well to fasting. And so here's another thing that it's not applicable to everyone, and it can actually cause more harm than good. So we have to know that information versus we read something on the internet that, intermittent fasting is the way to go. Not necessarily. Right?
Yeah.
So we have to have more information.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other is that bugs me is sleep. The way that we, just push ourselves as women, as busy professionals, as entrepreneurs. Like I know I'm guilty of it. As moms, we kind of default to caring for others and doing all the things, and we let our sleep go.
Right.
This is pretty common. I am a certified sleep specialist, so this is one of my areas that I'm particularly fond of, as I mentioned, is sleeping. And I was pretty strict as a new mom in teaching my children how to sleep. And we dedicated, I think it was like the first 2 years of their lives, we revolved around their sleep schedules, because I do believe that it's that important. And it affects everything. And for some reason, we just forgo it. And, we buy all these things that help us stay up at night, and push past our natural, sleep urge. And we just try to go. And, it's just not the best option. And, I cringe when, women are saying that they're staying up late after the kids go to bed to get some work done.
Right.
And, this hustle and bustle that we see online from, busy and successful women. It's not honoring the basics, and it's certainly not doing anything for your health. So those are the two big ones for me.
Yeah. So you're changing, you're shifting a little of that whole boss lady, boss girl culture that says like hustle, hustle, hustle. You got to work hard. You got to do these things. And yes, we work hard, but we also rest hard and play hard and all of these. So it's a combination of things. And what I love about what you're doing and the work that you do is that I think it answers the question for a lot of women who felt like and who feel like, okay, I've been doing this thing. I've been going to therapy every week for this long, and I don't feel like there's like big, massive changes. And I think when you talk about beyond therapy, it's like, yes, this is a key component. You do need to, heal in that way and do those things, but there are also these other pieces. And I love that you answer what I think is probably a question in women's mind, like, what's wrong with me that this isn't working? Do you see a lot of women that come to you and finally, discover you and what you're doing, and they're just like, oh, thank God?
Yeah, I think women are tired and confused, and many people have suggested that, oh, it's in your head, or, oh, you're fine, oh, you're tired because you have children. We don't need to feel this way. Right? It's not normal. It's not normal to feel depressed and tired and sick all the time, or even anxious all the time. And there's a better way. And unfortunately, some women are kind of desperate when they find us and find me. And they've kind of been through the ringer, and it's been years coming, and it's kind of a last ditch effort. And that's not good. But thankfully they are improving, and they're feeling better. And it's amazing to see that point of, entry where there's desperation in their eyes, right? And so tired. And then seeing this kind of person blossom right in front of you over the course of treatment. It's pretty neat.
I think that's an important point too, because oftentimes we're convinced that this is just how it is. As we get older, particularly like as I'm, mid 40s now, there are a lot of things that are going on that I'm like, oh, this must be what happens as you get older. Like these things just happen. It's more difficult to sleep, and my bladder doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing anymore, and like all these things that I think we're conditioned to think it's just like that's just what happens and it's normal and you deal with it. And I love that there is a lot of information out of there to that extent, because I think it has more of us questioning and saying, is that normal? Like, do I have to endure this just because maybe our mothers and grandmothers didn't know and didn't have some of the resources that we have? But I think that there is a questioning now for a lot of women, like, wait a minute, this cannot be it.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Well, because we're talking about it,
Right.
versus stuffing it. I talk about stuffing a lot with some of my clients, but we're waking up to, hey, this isn't acceptable. Let's talk about it. Let's find some solutions and let's move past it. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
I think you're right, because there maybe previously was some shame around some of these things that start to happen, or some of the things that just happen to us in general as women, that now we are talking more about. And, I've had conversations with some of my soccer mom friends, and we're literally like, oh, you too? You struggle with that too? Like you, and it's so refreshing, because it's like, okay, it's not just me. And this is not something that, I have to live with. So I love that we're talking about it, and that you're doing this and you're shouting this louder and louder, that there are things beyond therapy. Yes, do these things, but there's a gamut of other things that you can do to live a healthier life.
Absolutely.
When you think about your clients, what is your favorite before and after story?
I have a really good one right now who I've been working with her for over a year. And the way that I work is we have intense periods, and then we kind of don't. And then we kind of come and go depending on what's going on, right? So she is currently not active and is doing so wonderfully. She came to me to support her during a bout of IVF, so a round of IVF, because she's been dealing with some infertility and recurrent loss. And so we've been getting back to basics, right? So that she can manage the stress of these rounds that she's going through, right? And navigate them a little bit differently. And she's been very successful. And the most recent one, we decided to, we noticed that there were some symptoms coming up of increased anxiety and some just mood dysregulation whenever she ate gluten. So we really dove into that. And we decided, hey, let's just test it, right? She's a big bagel fan. And let's just test it. I know, bagels and cream cheese. So this was a thing for her. And it really stood out like a sore thumb that she was really focused on these bagels, right? And they were satisfying and pleasurable for her. And it was kind of like a normal thing for her. And she just dealt with the effects afterwards. And by working with me, she's become more in tune with her body. So that mind-body connection, the gut as it connects to as the second brain, as it connects to the first. And so she generally was more aware of the symptoms that she experiences based on food. So she was aware that she was very uncomfortable every time she would enjoy her bagel with cream cheese. So we decided to test. She was going to cut out gluten, she was going to cut out sugar, and she was going to pull back on dairy. So those are the three kind of trigger things that we look at sometimes. And she did this for a month. And amazingly, she felt great. Are you there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You
a little bit.
Can you see me?
A little bit. It's blurry. I can see you, but it says it's still recording at high quality. Okay, you're fine, because it says that you're still recording at, even though the internet is doing that. I see you. Yeah. Yeah. I see you.
Okay. I don't know what's going on.
It's all right. So
Okay.
you were talking
So,
about the
yeah,
gluten.
this client, so she cut these things out. And there was a little bit of a kind of learning curve period with the way that her brain was telling her that this was not going to be possible, right? So we had to do a lot of of challenging these beliefs that this was impossible to live without gluten, sugar, and dairy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a few short weeks in, the feedback was, I feel better than I have in a long time.
Wow.
Sleeping great, motivated to move her body, and less anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, I think we're now, 6 months or so into it, and she has easily shed weight. She doesn't get the after eating bloat anymore. She just feels better. She's brighter visibly. I can see a difference in when she's sitting on my couch, across from me, just the way that she engages. So she's showing up differently in her relationships. Her communication with her husband has improved. Their relationship has improved because she's not as on edge all the time. Her relationships with her family have improved. So overall, she's just excelling right now, which, we didn't anticipate that her results were going to be this wonderful so quickly, but they have been. So she's
from a bagel.
Starting cutting out the bagel.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was for her.
Yeah.
That worked.
Yeah, that was for her. But just the realization that, this one thing, this seemingly innocent behavior and, preference for her to eat a bagel every day and to love, bread is amazing. Gluten is great. But it had this effect in every area of her life, like relationships and her wanting to move and exercise and not feeling the anxiety. That is really powerful. So if I'm listening, and we have women from all over the world that are listening, and I know we have a lot of the same struggles. It shows up differently for each one of us, but if I'm listening to this, how do I know where to start? There's so much information out there. What do you recommend people do to just start this work?
Yeah, so start the connection between your brain and your body. So start tuning in. Spend time with yourself. So as someone who is a high achiever, as someone who is busy, one of the things that we do is forego spending time with ourselves because we also believe that means we have to slow down. And I don't believe that, but I do think that we can find sneaky ways to kind of introduce time with ourselves into each day. So at times of transition, before you get started with your day, before you finalize your day, little bits of time where you can just tune in with how you're feeling, how your body's feeling. That's a great place to start, just to get to know yourself again, right? And figure out, kind of tune in, what do I need in this moment? What are my needs, right? And start that dialogue with yourself. And then I would recommend finding a provider who can kind of help guide you in the best direction for you. I would personally recommend a therapist who does have an approach of kind of holistic wellness, maybe some experience in functional medicine. Maybe it's not even a therapist. Maybe it's a functional medicine provider or integrative practitioner. So those key terms are what folks could be looking for if they're ready to seek support. As that is going to be the approach that we take at Reboot, more integrative, holistic, and functionally minded functional medicine.
Yeah, I think that first step is probably the hardest for most women, is to find that time to slow down long enough and then to actually honestly answer those questions. What do I need right now? Because for some of us, that could feel like opening a floodgate, right? I need a
Sure.
lot of things, right? And I think it's so important to be honest with yourself in those moments and to reach out and find the right provider for you, like you said, that can help guide you along that path. Do you work with clients virtually, or do you have to live in Virginia Beach?
I do. Yes, I do. So the whole practice and myself work with folks one-on-one, virtually or in the office. So in a therapy capacity, I work with folks in Virginia, but in a consulting capacity, I can work with folks anywhere. And it's quite similar. And so, yes, I can be reached very easily and help guide someone as well. So if I am the point of entry or point of contact, or someone wants to work with me, I am on Instagram at Laurie Dierstein, my full name, and at Reboot VB. So that's Virginia Beach. That's the clinic, and I manage everything there, so I can be contacted through that platform.
Yes, you are on Instagram. I want to encourage all of our ladies in the community to follow Laurie, for one, because she gives such great information and such. I mean, you're really good at reels, I must say. Real-
Thanks.
But it's just like these bite-sized pieces of information. And I think what it does is, for me, even having worked with you as your coach, like I would see your reel and be like, oh, magnesium. Yeah, I need to go take that. Or, oh, yeah, I'm probably not sleeping. And it would these great reminders for me to like do the basic things to care for myself. So definitely we all are going to be following you. And ladies, if you need help in this area, do not feel ashamed to reach out. We all, as women, have struggles. A lot of us have very similar struggles, and there's no shame in reaching out. And what Laurie is doing is so powerful, and it's life-changing. And you heard the story of the woman who, literally just shifted a couple of things and was able to really transform her life in a major way. So, Laurie, as always, you're just a wealth of information. And I just appreciate you for being the voice of this movement to move away from the hustle and bustle and putting yourself last. I appreciate that you're doing that.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So Reboot Virginia Beach is where you can find Laurie, and she's also on Instagram. And if you have any questions, all of her information is going to be in the show notes. But please do follow. Ladies, we got to take care of ourselves, because when we don't, a lot of things fall by the wayside, and we are not able to show up as the best versions of ourselves if we're not taking care of ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
Laurie, thanks again for bringing this information, and we will be talking soon.
Thank you.
If you found today's episode helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. And I'd really love to hear how you're doing. You can find me at Dr. Crystal Connor on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I can't wait to hear what progress you've made. So until next week, see ya.